Fantastic. Well, I'm excited today for another episode of the InsurTech Leadership Podcast. I'm Josh Hollander of Horton International, and today I'm joined by Emily McGinn. She is General Manager of the MGA and Wholesale Business Unit at Vertafore. Welcome, Emily.
Great, thanks. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So, by way of background, Emily runs product development, professional services, and customer service for the segment. I think most people in the industry know Vertafore, but for those who may not, it's one of the largest insurance technology providers in North America. Its MGA suite sits inside Emily's business. This conversation, I think, is super interesting right now because MGA premium has grown dramatically, hitting over $100 billion in the last couple of years, growing over 15% annually. And Vertafore's got a new workforce and technology report that shares some interesting insights, which we'll get into. So, Emily, maybe if there's anything you'd like to add on to that by way of background, we can start there.
Great. Yes, thank you. Thanks again for having me. Really excited to be here. So I've been at Vertafore for about 9 months. So I'm newer to the insurance industry, newer to Vertafore, but it's been, even in the 9 months I've been here, very, very exciting and dynamic industry. A lot of great things going on, also with our company. So my background is I came from the telecom and technology space. So very adjacent. A lot of the customers that I serve now in this space, I've worked with in the past, and came into into insurance as we'll get into. Actually, it's not necessarily something people think about, right? I wasn't necessarily thinking about jumping to insurance. When this opportunity came to me and I started speaking with different people in my personal life and my professional life about Vertafore and about this space, and particularly about the MGA market, really kind of opened my eyes to a ton of opportunity. I've worked for entrepreneurial companies in the past, high growth companies in the past. And so this was a very natural progression in my career, and very excited to be here.
Got it. So maybe this is jumping in with 2 feet here, but coming from running big operations in telecom at companies like Zayo and Lumen and Windstream, what surprised you most about this industry, and maybe in particular about how MGAs run their businesses?
I think what surprised me, I kind of touched on it as when I came over. I mean, I'd heard about it, but it did surprise me how it is different, that entrepreneurial, kind of more independent, fast-moving spirit that MGAs have, that I was not expecting it to be as aggressive as I thought, right? So in my past, I worked with a lot of companies. They need things, security, networking, some of the biggest content providers in the world. But it was still, it was very methodical. And when I came here, the way which we have to kind of pivot, like our MGAs pivot, they get the pen, we got to move fast, we're going to move here. Being really dynamic is not something I necessarily thought was going to be in insurance, and it is. And that's what makes it exciting. So that definitely surprised me. And although that has changed a little bit, even in the 9+ months, right? We have to be a little more methodical about things, but that kind of high growth and kind of being really nimble spirit is still there.
Great. Well, maybe we can jump right into the report. As I understand, Vertafore surveyed close to 200 MGA leaders, managers, and frontline professionals, and again released this 2026 workforce and technology report. So, is this something the company has done on a regular basis, and it's an update, or is this something new? Maybe you could provide a little bit more context for the report.
Yeah, it's something newer. We are generally always surveying our customers about different dynamics in the industry, but we know we've seen a lot of change, and seen a lot of change with our customers, and it drives how we kind of pivot our products and our technology and how we serve our customers. So that was really the catalyst to see what's happening with them, what's happening with their workforce, what is their workforce finding the most important, what is their, what are their needs now, And I take it back to a couple of years ago. It was really kind of it was about premiums, right? It was about just getting volume in, and that made MGA successful. And it was definitely this huge race when you have double-digit growth in the space, and knowing that the external market is showing that growth is kind of moderating. I would not say it's not going down, but it's now in single-digit growth instead of double-digit growth. We wanted to touch base with our customers to see, because of that, what has changed when you're looking at growing yourself, and what is important now that maybe was different than 5, 6, 7 years ago.
Got it. So not surprisingly, I think the report showed that 67% of the MGA workforce is 44 or older, and only 4% is under 28. So are there maybe some more nuanced implications of that than the obvious, or are there certain places maybe where you're seeing that knowledge actually walks out the door first? Is it around underwriting judgment, carrier relationships, or other program nuances?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest risk, right? And we look at the agency relationships, carrier relationships, all those relationships that have been built over, we can say, like 3, even 4 decades of experience, is at high risk, right, of walking out the door. And those are things that that sometimes technology can't solve, right? Personal relationships, the underwriting judgment that was there for, they've seen a lot of ups and downs and have been here, right? Not just for a couple of years, but been in the industry for decades. That is at risk. And yeah, we said 67% are 44 plus. And even if you dive into the numbers more, it was, the ratio is about 6 people 55 plus to 1 person under 25, right? So, I mean, that imbalance, and I think in a positive way, people do love insurance. And we see people, I think, in the industry, because they're passionate about it a little longer than maybe the regular retirement age, or people are working well into their 60s. But we need that gap needs to come in a lot faster than it is, as because only a few years is not going to have that knowledge transfer that we need to really get the kind of newer generation up to speed.
Yeah. And so obviously there are a number of platforms out there, and there's been consolidation, private equity driven consolidation. Is that, more a function of, these organizations haven't really created structured career paths, and so there isn't, a logical succession plan that they've been able to develop, and so really the only option is to sell, or, are there different factors at play here?
I think there's different factors at play. I think it's the consolidation is because of the it's such a great business to be in. So people are, I call them, whether it's private equity or what I would say aggregators, right? The big guys buying these MGAs. They were kind of they were running independently off to the side, and then 7 years ago, people started looking and go, this is actually a really great business to be in. And so there has been this huge kind of increase in the M&A activity through both, again, acquisitions and private equity. And so that's driven a lot of it. But I think it's more because of the opportunities with MGAs, not because it's not because anything's happening with these companies.
Got it. And does the report share any particular insights around succession planning, or did it maybe reveal any, misconceptions about the MGA talent crunch?
I think that, we did see that, like that structured career path is missing a little bit with MGAs, because they are entrepreneurial, they're more nimble, they grew so fast, right? You have companies that have been around for 50 years. They have more training programs, and they can be more methodical, and they can invest years doing X, Y, and Z. When MGAs are coming in, and in 3 years they're going like this, there's a lot of opportunity for people there. So it is high growth. If you're in there, you can have a new job every 6 months as the MGA is getting bigger, but then that oftentimes doesn't lead for enough kind of really methodical succession planning with more structured training and more structured programs to do that. So that's something that, I consider more of that. How do these MGs move to operational, rigor and structure? They were really successful just because of that premium growth before. Now, not only does the workforce look for that, like I want to know that there's a structured career path, also just the market, and carriers are looking for MGAs that have more of that operational discipline. So it's coming at it both ways. So MGAs have to pause a little bit, take a look at their internal processes, both for their employees and for their customers and their carriers, and making sure they're doing the right things.
And are there particular ways, you and your team at Vertafore, through the suite of solutions that you offer, trying to help with this problem?
Oh, definitely. And it all comes back to kind of AI and technology. So when you're looking to get people in the door that are under 25, right, we have to think about the way that they are used to working, and not just in a career, but in their personal life, right? Like data on demand, digital opportunities. And I like to say, email so 2010, right? They want self-service opportunities. They don't have to wait for PDFs and emails and have, Excel sheets going back and forth. And so MGAs that can show that they are taking out things in a workflow or really manual processes that younger generations know don't need to be there are going to be more attractive. So for a good example is we have a new AI agent that's kind of email ingestion. So you can email with unstructured documents. It reads for an application, it reads those and automatically fills in an application. So the underwriter can start working right away versus having someone open an email, read, and just do data entry. So those are the opportunities we see with MGAs. They're growing, so they're not looking to cut headcount. There's no headcount pressure. We need to reduce kind of operational, FTE, but they are looking to become more efficient, right? Get their underwriters better tools so the underwriters and people working there can use the same kind of expectations and tools that they use even in their personal life.
Yeah. So I happen to be in New York, and it's New York Tech Week, and I just came from an AI specific event run by one of the big VC firms, and you've got companies in there featuring sort of personal agents that essentially employee can have their agent that can talk either internally or externally potentially to folks. You've got people offering to clone yourself virtually, other things like that.
I know.
But obviously this industry is known for, moving maybe a little bit more slowly. But, do you see a path to some of these things that potentially move to a world with, people talking to agents talking to agents managing agents, sooner than later, or, as a major technology provider with lots of insights into the industry, where do you think we are on sort of the curve of innovation?
I think so. If you look at our workforce report, said that like 21% are using AI today and 50% are planning to do it soon, right? This was a couple months ago, and I truly believe 2026 is a complete change, right? AI kind of was being talked about for a couple years, and things were going up in the market, and opportunities were there in technology, but it was a little bit of you could give or take, and some people were adopting and some people not. I feel if we asked that question even a couple months later than we did, that those stats I gave you would have changed. I think that, and what AI, you see it when you're out there in New York, you look at ChatGPT or Claude, like they are releasing new models every 6 weeks. Yeah. And so what can be done today couldn't even be done 3 months ago. And so I think that has really changed the curve, as well as being able to show, and companies are seeing more really clear ROI use cases. It's not a buzzword. It's not something you just have in there for investors or we're not quite sure what to do with it. It's like for example, going back to that email submission, like it used to take you 20 minutes to read these PDFs and data entry this all in. Now it takes seconds. You review it in 3 minutes to make sure it's right and move on. And so that ROI is very clear. And we can show, you used to be able to do X amount of submissions a day, and now you can do this many, right? And that can hit that is a direct, impact on your bottom line, making sure nothing's falling through the cracks. So that's all happening every week that we see.
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier that the report showed growth slowing a bit, but there is a segment around, tech-driven MGAs that are growing quite rapidly, I believe. And I'm curious, these are technology first, speed to market. And, did your report share any insights on those? It seemed like there's maybe some concern it could create some crowding in some existing niches. And so, do they represent a threat to the traditional base? How do you see that segment?
I think it's not necessarily a threat. I think it's becoming table stakes, right? It is now just the expectation, and that speed to market, right? There is pushing everyone forward to be smarter, to move faster, to maybe think differently about the way things were done in the past. And it's like I said, we go back to the workforce, it's critical for the workforce, but also it's critical that the technology that you have, and MGA needs that, right? To go back to their carrier. Carriers' expectations are changed too. They're like data governance, like fast technology tools, being able to get border reports that are clean, fast, and accurate, right? You're only going to be able to do that through technology advances. And so the market is getting bigger in that space, but those who win are not just going to go kind of tech first. They're going to go, I have to know the foundation of the industry, regulation, the customer base. What do we need to do? Is the foundation there? And then add technology on top. If you just start with the technology, you're probably not going to win. But that's how we think about it here.
And in terms of those organizations and what they might want to try to build themselves versus leverage from a company like, Vertafore, do you have a different approach in that market than maybe in some of the other, more traditional segments?
We do. I mean, especially the big guys, they have, right? When you're a startup MGA, they're smaller, right? They don't have a giant team that can do that. But as MGAs are being bought and the acquisitions are happening by the bigger aggregators, they do have that. And we like to partner with them, right? Let us do what we do best, right? We don't see it as a threat, right? We say, what is your end goal that you want to accomplish? This is what we do all day, all night. And we don't have other competing priorities, right? Whereas that is, doing it in-house, you might. And so we're really building our technology so that you can plug in where you need. So if you look at our AI strategy, is to build agents to say, I want this one here because this is my pain point. I don't need this one here, right? Yet. And that's how we're doing, is giving a lot of options for the entire end-to-end workflow, right? We call it distribution velocity, right? It's not just one step. It's how do we start and go all the way through the entire workflow to reduce pain points. And whatever your pain point is at one time, we can have an answer to that. And that's how we're approaching it in a partnership way.
So this question may not be entirely fair in the sense that this is a short podcast, but I'll throw it out there anyway. Because a big headline of the report was around operational excellence, and you mentioned that already. But sort of, what does that look like sort of with the 5-person versus the 50-person versus the 500-person shop?
It definitely looks different, and where a 50-person shop, right? They generally have a lot more ingrained, right? They're coming at it with a lot more systems, or they have more technology in there. So it's really operational excellence. It's about how do we integrate, right? It's not about going to customers saying you got to get rid of everything that you have, or we know you need more things because you're bigger, right? Your business is more complex. It's how do we help connect it all together? How do we build our technologies? We use open APIs. How do we make sure you're successful no matter who you are working with? Either a big company, if you want to start acquiring, you have multiple businesses coming in under umbrella. For a smaller company, that's where we have a little more opportunity to go, let's get out, they're not looking at integration. Let's give you something end to end where you can make sure your business can be successful first. And then we can add a lot of the, let us do this. Let's get you, getting premiums out the door. And then we can continue to grow onto that. Okay, now do you need some AI agents? Now do you need this? And we have a lot more, I think, flexibility to build that end-to-end solution. So we're looking more of the entire workflow there.
And so I think you've talked about how, AI should help humans optimize decisions rather than make them maybe in some areas. I mean, there's certain ways where there's always been machine learning and other things that are basically a decision tree that are kind of in a way making decisions, right? But, there's specific places where you see the human needing to be in the loop for, these agents to be effective and maintain that operational excellence and show that kind of operational control to, fronting carriers and other partners that MGAs are working with.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, our AI philosophy is human first, right? And it's different. Then I was speaking to someone else, and their AI philosophy, they run a call center, and it's really about how do we eliminate, the need to offshore these calls by using AI. When I look at the MGA market or insurance in general, we're not seeing that as much, right? Humans need to stay and be in the loop at all. It is not ready to move them out. It's more about taking what they have done and like you said, making it more efficient. So when we are using an agent to take email submissions and applications and put them in right away, it is it's taking that same human that would do that, and then they have to review, make sure it's accurate, figure out where they want to go, and then we still need that underwriting expertise as it goes through the workflow. Another part is we look at AI, and it goes back to kind of the retirement, right? It's about using AI not just for your end business, but how do you capture that institutional knowledge, right? It's AI, right? That's what we also found, right? And we need humans to use AI to deliver that more efficiently, right? We're not going to have people at retirement age just sit there for hours training a 22-year-old by just getting on a call with them. There are more efficient ways to do it. How do we capture what they do every day? How do we, and we use it at Vertafore too, right? As I have people that are experts, how do I make my organization more efficient by capturing our SMEs and our industry SMEs and our product SMEs and kind of leverage them and then get humans in the loop to get that data out, and so we can learn and get stuff out of their head and into the hands of a younger generation.
Yeah, so speaking of data, what has to be true about an MGA's data in order to actually, even think about implementing some of these newer technologies?
I mean, it is core systems and clean data is first. That has to be. There are, if you look at, when I say the growth is slowing, just because the market's gotten bigger, right? There's a lot of, different macroeconomic things in the industry. It's still growing a lot. And, the MGAs that didn't make it was often a data issue, right? They didn't have the right data as they were applying risks on things. And so they were going to, they lost the carrier, the trust, right? And I think that's the thing that MGAs always need. They need a clean data foundation so that carriers will renew with them and work with them. And that has to be true before you add anything else on top, because that's a critical relationship. And so, a lot of what we do is document management, being able to pull things, pull historicals, making sure everything ties out. We are, part of our solution goes deep into accounting right? And it's some solutions don't do that, but that's really critical. That's not, the accountants, that stuff has to be clean before we add any piece of new technology or AI on top of that.
Got it. Do you think more organizations should be looking at hiring people from outside of the industry like yourself?
I do. Yes.
And what do you think that looks like?
I think it looks like bringing the technology so people understand that it is an exciting and dynamic industry to work in, right? I'm very passionate about, even as I'm mentoring employees, that you're going to be the most successful when you can diversify your career with different functional areas, different industries. You go, career growth isn't like this. Sometimes it's like this. And having some context of how other industries work, other companies work, is really important. So it's a little bit of a catch-22, because I think when you look at this workforce, it's because people love it, right? People are so passionate about insurance. And when people ask me what's the biggest thing that surprises me, okay, it's a job. Obviously, people like their jobs, but the passion around the insurance industry is definitely something I hadn't expected. So people stay. And once they get in, I don't know many people that leave to go outside of insurance once they're in.
Yeah.
And so really telling people that, like, talk to people that are in insurance, and you're going to see a ton of opportunity. And it is so ripe for technology transformation and more growth, and to do new cool things. And I think that's really needed to get people outside of the industry in.
And as a technology company, I mean, do you feel like it's easier for you to recruit people into Vertafore, or do you still have the insurance overhang, or are there specific things you've done to try to get people excited to come on board as you're kind of, putting your stamp on the organization and building out your team?
I think it's been pretty easy for me. I think number one, we are the leader, right? And we're not a niche in one opportunity. So you come into Vertafore, and there's, whether you're on my team or the agency side, or we have a DCM practice, there's going to be a tremendous amount of opportunity for growth. And it's such a great company. We're based out of Denver. Our company is very dynamic. The culture is great. We have people in the office, and just our overall kind of culture here. That's a big reason why I came. Makes it really easy, especially in a place like Colorado, to recruit people.
Yeah, great. So if you were to look 3 years out, 5 years out, what do you think a winning MGA looks like? And, do you think the 1,000+ MGAs that are out there all get there? Or do you think, there's a percentage of them that, are going to need more help from organizations like yours in order to make it?
I think it's going to continue to, the growth is going to continue, but it's still going to be in that single digit, because, there's the market factors. If you look, it was in single digit growth, and I think last time was in 2017, right? And then exploded, and now it's steadying off. So the MGAs that are going to be successful are, the MGAs that have clean data, that are, that can navigate carrier mandates, that make good long-term decisions about who they want to partner with, knowing that the industry is changing, and it's moving maybe a tiny bit slower to be more sustainable, right? The ones that get in there, and and they're not thinking about these things in day one. Maybe that you could get by maybe 10 years ago by not thinking about data and the operational structure of your organization. I don't think that's going to be an option as you move forward, because there is more competition.
Yeah. So Emily, thanks for sharing these insights from the report and your own insights. Anything else you'd like to share before we wrap up?
No, I think this is it's an exciting time, right? We talk about AI, but it is it's augmentation to all the exciting stuff that's already happening. And I think if we as in the industry continue to go technology first and lead with that, I believe a lot of these workforce dynamics, we can get past them. right? As we get more kind of the younger generation in, and the industry experts are moving on to wonderful retirement. So it's a exciting place to be, and an exciting time.
All right, great. Well, Emily McGinn, General Manager of MGA and Wholesale at Vertafore, thanks so much for joining me on the InsurTech Leadership Podcast.